Hello, this is your host of CivilNet, Hacopian, and we are joined today again by our special expert from USC's Emil Sanamyan, who is the editor of FOCUS on Karabakh at the University of Southern California. Thank you, Emil, for joining us today.
Hello again.
I have a question for you. I've been watching the statements of Aliyev over the last 24 hours, and about 8 to 10 days ago, he was talking about renaming the streets of Shushi. And there seems to be some softening in his statements, even though he goes back and forth. Now he's saying this issue needs to be resolved by negotiations, ultimately referring to Karabakhis as their citizens. Have you noticed this, and what do you make of this juxtaposition?
Well, there's been a mix of rhetoric. I think initially you could even see that the rhetoric on the events was dominated by Erdogan and by Turkish officials rather than by Azerbaijani officials. So in the last few days, Aliyev has retaken sort of that mantle of leadership on this war, at least rhetorically. So I wouldn't read in too much into the statements. What I can tell is that they have made a push, a substantial push into Armenian-controlled territory, and were able to essentially accomplish what they weren't able to accomplish in 2016. Capturing Talish and making inroads into Madagis area and also in the south. And I think they want to solidify those gains. A lot will depend on to what extent the Armenian army can, push back. The more there's pushback, the more they would try to solidify the gains. Of course, there's another theater of war that's opened up with the missile barrages, with Spanagert under fire, and with Armenian side retaliating for that.
I was taken when I was watching Pashinyan's speech the other day, and I thought about something which, frankly, no one has commented on, and that is when this war started and this Azeri Turkish, jihadi invasion on last Sunday. If you read through Pashinyan's speech, what struck me is that they just didn't invade Karabakh. They also invaded a revolutionary state. And what I mean by that is historically, and if you look at history, starting from the French Revolution to the Russian Revolution to the Cuban Revolution to the Iranian Revolution, almost all of these countries within the first 2 or 3 years after the period of revolution, they were attacked by their regional adversaries or world powers, depending on which one of the cases that you're looking at. To what extent do you think the fact that at the end of the day, the government, the Pashinyan government, has more legitimacy and can possibly ask for greater sacrifices from its people, play a role in this? And how do you see that this sort of peculiarity, this historical line that I'm referring to?
Yeah, well, early on, actually, with all this revolutionary rhetoric, I remember discussing and expressing concern that revolutionary states tend to kindle counter-revolutionary alliances, and Armenia is surrounded by counter-revolutionary states. Even Iran has become a counter-revolutionary state, even though officially it's a state of the Islamic Revolution, and Georgia became a counter-revolutionary state after the change of government there some years ago. So the revolutionary rhetoric, it can support a domestic mobilization, yes, but overall I don't think it positions Armenia very favorably internationally, because the revolutionary rhetoric does not resonate abroad, and I think it might resonate somewhat in Armenia, but the rhetoric has to be about security. The rhetoric has to be about the future. Revolution, I think it's a substantially vague notion and can be interpreted in different ways.
As you know, since the last time we spoke, this presence of these jihadi forces in the war and on the Azeri side has been pretty much an established fact. There's no more disputing that. And I was reading this interesting article in Eurasia.net about how upsetting this has been to many on the Azeri side because they think it takes away from their narrative. And they used a phrase which I want you to comment on. They're saying no matter, this has reputational cost. I want you to explain to me what reputational cost are they referring to? Are they referring to the alignment of or the accusation that they're aligned with forces of international terrorism, or is it somehow questioning the veracity of their own forces?
I think it's both. I think the notion that has developed in Azerbaijan over many years of superiority over the Armenian side, and ability to win this war single-handedly, had really, I think, been sort of adopted by most people in Azerbaijan. However, 2016 showed the limitations of their own capacity. So, in a sense, they learned the lessons of that. And now, in terms of specifically in terms of two categories of forces: infantry forces that can attack, and also the artillery forces that can support that attack. In both cases, they failed in 2016. So this time around, they had the Turkish basically drone fleet providing that artillery cover from the air, and the infantry being supplemented by the jihadists or mercenaries, however you want to call them, people from Syria, brought in as part of the Turkish contingent in this war.
As far as the changing rhetoric, I don't know if you've noticed this, but I've known other people who've commented on it, that in the first couple of days of this war, that the level and the intensity of the rhetoric from the Turkish side was intense and was overwhelming. And you could not see any difference between these two sides. And it seems that some of that has lessened, especially over the last day and a half. And in fact, Erdogan, frankly, has moved on to new things about conquering Jerusalem and things of that nature. Is that something that you have noticed, or is that an anomaly?
I haven't followed in the last few days, I haven't followed the Turkish rhetoric that close, but bottom line is there's an established fact right now where Erdogan promised military support to Azerbaijan, and he's delivered that military support, and was able to shift the line of contact in a small but noticeable way. So that is a major precedent for this part of the world, not happened before, and it's a lesson and continued. Is a lesson that's having continued impact on how Armenians and the others will have to consider this, because he showed that they could do more in addition to what they already did. So that's a huge concern for Armenia's security, and that's something that needs to be addressed.
My last question is, as you stated earlier, a good part of this, we're in the missile war stage at this point, and obviously it was instigated by the other side. In fact, that missile strikes started the war on Stepanakert. From a strategic standpoint, is this an attempt to terrorize the population, or is this an attempt?
Certainly.
Or is this an attempt to? Is this a sign of weakness, or is it a sign of strength? Which one is it?
It's a sign of capability, and it can be interpreted in different ways. The initial attacks that they launched, they were against military targets, and the objective was to knock out the air defense, to be able to use those drones unmolested. And we saw that we have not seen any evidence that the Armenian side was able to shut down any of the Turkish drones. I'm talking about the larger drones that fly away from the front line and fire from a distance. And attack Armenian tanks, Armenian artillery, Armenian positions. We've seen a lot of video of that released over the days and causing casualties among Armenian personnel. So that attack was military in nature, to be able to clear the ground, first clear it of air defense for the sort of the air artillery, and then clear the ground for the infantry and mechanized forces to try to move in. So that was the military part of the objective. Now that they're trying to solidify their control in that area so they could report on a victory, political victory, they're attacking now Stepanakert to basically deter Armenian side from trying to counterattack and trying to undermine that political victory that they accomplished. And the Armenian side, of course, retaliating, showing that this is not going to be a one-way war. So it's you can't just say it's about weakness or strength. It's obviously about capability, and what's happening right now in Stepanakert is outrageous, and also shows the limits of Armenian diplomatic reach in terms of international community being able to react to something like this. A peaceful city being destroyed right now.
Well, Mr. Sanamyan, I appreciate your time, and it was quite insightful to have your take on these difficult days.
Thank you. I wish they'll be over soon, and we return to a peaceful situation.
Yes. This is Eric Hacopian, your host of CivilNet, and thank you for watching our show.